So, good morning, everyone. We will, again, we don't have much time and so much to study. I owe you still something from last time, and there are more to continue with today. This was my last shiur for this year, this calendar year, so I hope we'll enjoy it. We didn't finish the last week a few topics that are connected with Borer. I'm sorry, with Tochen. So I will continue from there. I will do it short, and I can already now tell you that I'm not going to go into all the details of that. We are unable to in our shiurim, even though it feels like we have so many shiurim and we go in depth. We still only touch the surface. So we'll try as much as we can. And part of the important thing are that you will also ask a question you want, think that you don't understand, that I can also go in that direction. I hope you all studied the topics we talked about. So this is either a reminder or going a bit deeper. So we'll start from the Melechet Tochen. I'll share. And this is what we started to talk about regarding salads. So very shortly, yes. So it starts from, you can see here from the Talmud Shabbat. Everyone remembers what the Talmud is?
Yes.
Great. So, Silke, what are the years of Talmud?
I have no clue. This is so evil to ask. I don't know.
more or less. What time are we talking about when we say Talmud? More or less, what the period?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Should I know?
Huh?
Should I know by heart by now? Okay.
Yes.
Is it like between from 20 to 200s to 1500s or something like that?
200 to 500.
Sorry, 500. Sorry,
it's a big difference.
Yeah, not 1500s, 500s.
Yes. The very simple is to share the first 500 years from zero. So Mishnah is more or less from, it's actually a bit minus, but remember, more or less 0 to 200. It's actually 250 to like minus 50 to 200, or even 250. Talmud is 200 to 500. It's not right. It's not like on the spot, but it gives you a framework, because the year 200, which is very crucial to remember, this is a year of that the Mishnah was edited by Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the Mishnah that we will go back to. So this is 0 to 200. 200 Mishnah is edited. And then we go over to the time of Talmud, which started a bit after. But 200 to 500 gives you more or less a picture. Because it's the way the halacha is evolving, that's why it's also important to repeat it, and I say it every time. Because, this is a part that you should remember also. If I can ask, should I ask someone, or do I see someone volunteering to explain the difference between Mishnah and Talmud? Is there a volunteer? I'll be happy if some more of you would open the camera so I can see you, even though you have the morning hair. And yes, Michael and Eva.
I think so. I think the Mishnah is the Mishnah, and the Talmud is the like Perush for the Mishnah, no?
Yeah,
Talmud
Talmud
and Gemara is the same, no? But
yes.
yeah, but one is from Babel and one is from Jerusalem.
No. You have one. You have one and one. You have
Okay,
Bavli and Talmud Yerushalmi.
Yeah, and the Talmud is kind of like the teaching of the Mishnah.
So what happened? The Mishnah is only the bottom line.
The rules.
It's only what you're supposed to do, but it gives you also the different opinions on what you're supposed to do in every topic. The Talmud is a discussion that trying to understand why the Mishnah said that, what will happen, and you say it's continuing the discussion that started in the Mishnah. While the Mishnah doesn't give us the source where it comes from, the Talmud goes to try to find the source and also find out what do we do if it's the situation is more complicated than just what happened in the Mishnah and so on. So yes, this Mishnah and Talmud. Talmud is come from the word lilmod, to study. Talmud, while Mishnah is repetition. So Mishnah is just knowing by heart. It's a repetition of the bottom line, while Talmud is studying it. Okay, that's a reminder. I'll probably say that we'll go back to that again other times. So Rav Yehuda said, this was a way to know that you're in Talmud because it's Rav and not Rabbi. Rabbi is Mishnah, Rav is Talmud. Rav Yehuda said, these peppers, crushing them one by one with the handle of a knife is permitted. However, crushing two at a time is prohibited. Rava said, since he alters, even crushing many is also permitted. Yes, Cecilia?
I wonder, what does that say, Milechet Tochen?
Melechet Tochen. The word melechet comes from melacha, right? Melacha is type of work. When we go back to all the time when we talk about the rules of Shabbat, the question is what is seen as melacha, as a type of work or a type of labor, while we have the 39.
Okay.
Tochen is actually not one of them, but it comes. No, Tochen is one of them. Sorry, Tochen is the one. You have like different. You have the Lametet Melachot, and you have some more that are connected to them. Okay. So we have Shulchan Aruch. Let's go back to the Talmud for a second. So the thing they say, if crushing them one by one with a handle of a knife. Why with the handle of a knife? Why did the Talmud says something weird like that? To crush the peppers with the handle of the knife? Can you try to explain why you should crush peppers with the handle of a knife?
Does it have something to do with the tool it's the tool you use for the cutting, and you can use the handle and not use another tool?
Yeah, but so why that? Why using this tool?
Mm.
When you're doing things, you should do it in another way than you.
Yes,
usually.
great, Rebecca. What's the word in Hebrew?
I forgot.
Okay, there's a halachic term says shinui, differently. Shinui means change in a different way, and that's something that comes along many different times in the rules of Shabbat. They're doing something not in the regular way. So crushing peppers in a way that is like a work. For example, why is it important? Crushing peppers, usually you grind them in a. Now we buy them grounded, but if you unless it's like in a system, right? If you grind peppers in such then it's systematically. Then it's a kli that this is what it meant to do, and then you're not allowed to use it. Or people grind with the hand with a I know it's called in Hebrew machtesh ve'eli, like you have a tool and then you ground it with that. That's not allowed because this is the way of work. This is the way you do it. Now, if you need to crush peppers because you want to eat a bit, and you can't eat whole peppers like that, and don't try. So if then you can use the back of your knife to crush it. Then you won't do no one will look at you and say, you are now grinding. No, you just take a bit, you do a bit to be able to eat with your salad. That's enough. If it's beshinui and it's a small portion, then it's fine. And you can see here the discussion is: do you have to do it only one by one, or even more? This is a discussion between Rav Yehuda and Rava, which comes to, is it a big shinui? It's both with the knife and one by one, or then along it's with the knife, then with the back of the knife, then it's fine. And where does this meet us? It meets us in many different aspects. So we'll go to the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch, I'll go back to that later in the year. One who cuts vegetables finely is liable for grinding, for tochen. Okay, that's very important. One who cuts vegetable finely. You mean if you cut very, 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 very small, then it's like tochen. It's like grinding something. And Rama adds on this. What's the difference between Rama and Shulchan Aruch? Rama, the Ashkenazi posek, and Shulchan Aruch, the Sfaradi. Yes, Michael?
Which size do you talk about when it's very small?
Finally. It doesn't say explicitly, and I can tell you that I see that there are many different answers regarding that. But let's just see what Rama says, and it gives you a bit of a direction. Likewise, it is prohibited to cut dried figs and carobs for the elderly. Beit Yosef, in the name of Tosef, he quotes Beit Yosef, but Yosef is actually Shulchan Aruch. This only applies to fruits, etc. But one is permitted to turn bread into crumbs for chickens, because it had already been grinded before, grinded, and therefore no need for concern, as there is no second grinding. He says, if you take a bread, it doesn't matter how small you grind it to, it's not grinding because the bread was already grinded. How was the bread grinded? By grinding the corn, the wheat, right? So if you needed to grind the wheat to create the bread, then it's already grinded. You can't grind something twice. There's no such thing, grinding twice. That's why the bread can be grinded to the level of crumbs, and it's still be allowed. And therefore, no need to And all of this only refers to cutting for later. But prior to eating, it's all permitted. Similar to separating prior to eating, which is permitted. So you see here that the Rema actually is more open to cut also very very finely, because it says it's only if you do it for later use. If you cut in the morning for one of the Suda Shlishit for the afternoon, then it's but if it's connected to the eating, connected to the dinner, then no one will, because the question is, do you do it as a milacha? For example, I'll give an example that it actually happens to us. Many times when we chop cabbage, yes, and usually that's like very, very thin. And my wife doesn't like to do it. I'm better to do it very thin. So she asked me to do it for a long time, like to chop a lot, and we put it in a box so it can be used later on. So when I do it, I don't do it directly connected to eating. I do it to have to chop it finely into a box. Then it's a melacha, right? I don't do it as a connected to eating. I do it to prepare the cabbage for later use, whoever will use it. Then what I do is a work, because I don't do it directly to eating. So when you do that before Shabbat, most of the people will say cabbage is better to chop before. You can even see that I use the word chop and I don't use the word cut. When something is chopped, maybe that's an answer for you. What is considered fine or not? If you use the word chop, it means that it's too far. It's too small.
לקצץ.
Liktot, exactly. So if you do liktot salad, then something's wrong. If you cut salad, then it's fine. So that can be a. But here you can see is a rema that goes to say if it's directly connected to the eating, it will be fine. If it doesn't happen in the way of chopping. So, for example, if you how it's called, a grinder, another grinder, like how it's called, the one that you, where, for example, with cheese, if you want, what's the name of it? You remember what I mean when you have this, that you go like this? What's the name of it? I don't know.
So you're grating cheese.
What, Mia?
You're grating cheese.
Grating. Oh, it's okay. It's also kind of the grinder that is that you can grind like this on.
Yes.
So it's also a grinder. Okay, good. So that is not allowed to use because this is a tool that is meant for grinding. Then you're not allowed to use it. This is what we said about the peppers. You're allowed to crush the peppers, but not in a tool that is meant for grinding. So the same thing will be relevant for if you do this Greek salad of with cucumbers and yogurt with tzatziki. Yeah, if you create tzatziki and you need to grind or carrots that you can put, then you're not allowed to do that. You have to cut it finely or do it before Shabbat. But you can't do it directly on Shabbat with a tool that is meant for grinding, because then it's very similar to work. And that's something that happened to us many times. That when we grind cheese, we already grind more than what we need for the dinner. So I grind the whole thing and put it in a box for later use. And that's but if I'll use something special, a knife to do it, which is not the regular type, then I won't cut more than what I need, and I will only cut the thing that I need for dinner. So this is like the basic. There are much more details, but this is the basic idea that not use the usual tools for something that is a melacha and do it directly connected to the food. It's permitted if it's connected to the meal that you serve. Good. Any questions here?
Yeah, actually, what if you take it out before use? Like if you take before Shabbat, if you take the cheese grinder before Shabbat and then you say, I'll use this for Shabbat.
No, what I would say, you should do it before Shabbat, prepare it before Shabbat. If you need the grinder, if you need to grind something, then do it before Shabbat, put it in a box and use it during Shabbat.
Okay, super, sorry, I'm tired.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm going over to the shiur that we were supposed to do today. And we're going over to houseworks, which is also, we won't be able to go through all of it. If someone has a specific question, you're very welcome to ask. Okay, this is again a very basic aspect of the question of doing different works on Shabbat. So Talmud Shabbat. Again, Talmud. Silke, from when did Talmud?
I have my notes. So you just said that there was, so Talmud was year 200 to 500,
Yes.
and it's like the Mishnah that's edited.
No, Mishnah was edited in 200. It's the studying of the Mishnah, the discussion about what's written in the Mishnah. It's commentaries to Mishnah, discussions on Mishnah. It's based on the Mishnah.
Yeah.
Yes, great. So, but you can see here that the first source is what we call a Tanaitic source. It means it's a source when it says in the Talmud, the sages taught, as it says here, then you can see immediately someone who reads in Aramaic knows now we go to a source that is from the Mishnah time. It doesn't really, it didn't come in the Mishnah, but it's a source from the time of the Mishnah that is just as obliging, like you are also obligated to these sources because they are the older one in the time of the Mishnah. They are what we call extern Mishnayot. So this is the time of the Mishnah. The sages taught in the Baraita. One who milks, and one who sets milk, and one who makes cheese in the measure of a dried fig bulk, and one who sweeps, and one who sprinkles water, and one who removes honeycombs. If he did so unwittingly on Shabbat, he's liable to bring a sin offer. So if you do this by mistake, one of these types of work, and you can see that none of them are the original melachot. So it's none of these types of work are mentioned in the list of the 39 melachot in the Mishnah. If it were directly the one of them, then it was clear that it's not allowed. Here we talk of something that is not allowed because it's similar to the melachot in the Mishnah. So, if you do all these unwittingly, so you do it by mistake, then you have to bring a sin offering. Now, chayav chatat. Everywhere in the Talmud, in the Mishnah, when it says chayav, it means chayav chatat. Even though chatat is a sin offer, and the Mishnah is written most of it in the time that the temple doesn't exist, but it makes it more principled. The idea that you're supposed to bring a sin offer because you committed a sin. When you commit a sin, you're supposed to bring a sin offer to the temple. So when it says chayav, it means you're liable. You have a debt. Now, if you think in all the sins you did, you probably, each and every one of you, I already owe the temple probably, 1,500 offerings or more, 2,000 offerings from the time since my bar mitzvah until today, with all the sins I committed by mistake or not by mistake. Maybe one day we'll. Let's say that the day that the temple will be built will be a day that no animal would stay alive in the whole Middle East to be able to pay all these sin offerings. Yes, yeah.
I know you're gonna kill me a little bit because I know how you feel by this group, but the Temple Institute used to do like small videos about some offerings, and they used to like show it how they did it and so on. Is this something that you can maybe like teach us in it or in the future?
As you said, I'm going to kill you for mentioning it. I think that the Temple Institute is a terrible place that are going against Judaism, against so many aspects of my life. You're right that they have actually some very nice materials that maybe there will be to show you why we don't want any of these things. For example, they do a ceremony of a Pesach offering and others. But I bring it to the reason I brought it here today, even though like the only thing that is relevant for shiur is one who sweeps. But here the idea of that when it says chayav, liable, it means liable of a sin offering. That this is the way the Mishnah and the Talmud speaks from a completely different time. And you can see here that if he did so intentionally on a festival, he receives 40 lashes. So it's not only in Afghanistan that they use to, we have the same thing. Don't worry, everyone in the world used these methods to, this was a way of punishment. So it's, you shouldn't look at it as so primitive. It is primitive, but everyone used these things. It was actually forbidden to do any more. So it's like, it's very crucial that you don't go over what's the rules of the 40. But this is like when you do it intentionally, then you were because it's from the it's avera. It's from the deoraita, from the Torah, and then it's and then you deserve the 30 lashes. And here, but this is the statement of Rabbi Eliezer. The rabbi says both this and that, like both these occasions, unwittingly or in, are only due to Shvut, to the rabbinic decree of Shvut. And say all these things are not melachot, they are actually miderabanan. Now this is very crucial. Remember the two words, Rabanan and Doraita. Can anyone explain what the Rabanan and Doraita is? Just raise your hand. I hope that all of you put the hand up to explain the difference between the Rabanan and Doraita. Come on, I need more. Okay, Daniel.
Yes, I'm thinking that I can put the video on. I'm thinking that the Oraita is the oral law and the Rabbanan is the rabbinic law.
Yeah, oral law and rabbinic law are the same.
Okay.
So if you're almost right, you're right. Midirabanan comes from the word rabbis. You can hear it, right? Rabbanim.
Yeah.
Midirabanan means from the rabbis, which is the oral law. And midoraita is the Aramaic word for the Torah. It means from the Torah. So you have from the Torah and from the rabbis. This is the Oraita and the Rabbanan. And this is crucial because you can see here, for example, the level of punishment, the level of the sin is much lower when it's the Rabbanan. It's the Rabbanan, you don't have neither a sin offering or lashes. You don't do that in something that is the Rabbanan. And more important, something from the Oraita, you have why is it so important to know if the rule is from the Torah or from the rabbi? You have to do both of them. There's no difference regarding to that you are obligated. But there's one crucial difference, which is in the time of safek, in a time of doubt. If there's something that is doubtly, for example, if you're not sure is this work or not, we will have discussion. What is sweeping? What is considered sweeping? What do they mean? If it's a rule from Doraita, then the doubt of it will be forbidden. But if it's a rule from the rabbi, then if you doubt of this is that type of work, then it's allowed. And that's why it's very crucial. If it's safek, we talked about it a lot. I thought you all remember from the rule of brachot. The bracha is from, almost all the brachot are from the Rabbanan, so the rabbis. So Birkat HaMazon, for example, is from the Oraita. But Hamotzi Lechem is from the Rabbanan. So if you say bracha before eating, that's from the rabbis. If you don't remember if you said it or not, you're in doubt, then you don't repeat. Because it's affect the Rabbanan and then you don't do it. But if you're in doubt, if you said the Birkat HaMazon after and that is from the Oraita, then you do say it again. Regardless, like if you don't remember, then you say it. Because you need to be on the safe side. if it's Doraita. And in the Rabbanan, you don't. That's the difference. And this will be very relevant here. That's why this discussion is crucial. Do we see these rules, these types of works, as Doraita from the Torah, or as rabbinical rule from the Rabbanan? Okay. So now we'll go to rules of working at home. Ameima, it's the name of the rabbi. Ameima permitted sprinkling water in the city of Mechoza. Now you can see that this Braita says sprinkling of water is not allowed, right? And one who sprinkles water on the floor. So how can Ameima, a rabbi, a morah from the Talmud time, permit sprinkling water? He said, what is the reason that the rabbi said it is prohibited to sprinkle water? This is the explanation. It was due to the concern lest one come to smooth out holes. That when you sprinkle water, it will change the look of the floor. Here in Mechoza, in the city of Mechoza, there are no holes. How can he say there are no holes in the floor in Mechoza? It's very simple. Mechoza was a city that they used stones for the floor. So they had a stone floor, and in Israel, where the Braita was written, they had a floor that was the ground, directly the ground. So if it was directly on earth. So that when you have this difference of conditions, then suddenly it's allowed to sprinkle on the floor, as Ameima said in Mechoza. So you can see here, suddenly we have a situation. Now, if you only read the Braita, you would say, okay, so it's not permitted to put water on the floor. But then you can see that it depends on the floor, and it's more complicated than only allowed or not allowed. And then came a discussion. Again, I think it's a beautiful example of the Talmud discussion. That's why I brought it. Rava Tosfa, it's the name of a rabbi. He found that Ravina was suffering on Shabbat from the dusty, hot air. This is not a Scandinavian or Nordic issue. We talk about the desert. So he found Ravina was a very famous rabbi that he suffered. And some others say it was the Kashisha, son of Rava who found Rav Ashi. There's a discussion where the story was, that he was suffering from the dusty hot air. Kashisha said to Rav Ashi, Kashisha says, he found this rabbi, he found Rav Ashi suffering, and say, why are you suffering? You can do something about the hot air, the dusty hot air. And does my master not hold this halacha that was taught in Baraita? There's a different Baraita that can be used. One who wishes to sprinkle his house on Shabbat, even when the floor is not only stones, brings a large basin full of water and washes his face in this corner, his hands in this corner, his feet in this corner, and it will eventuate that the house is sprinkled by itself. So the Braita here comes with being like our, when we say a student is a smartass, someone who comes and have a very creative solution to a problem. He said, the Braita says, you want your house to sprinkle water all over the floor, so use the water in a permitted way, that you won't directly sprinkle water on the floor, but you sprinkle through washing your face, washing your hand, washing your feet, and do every part of it in a different part of the house. And that's why you can sprinkle water on the whole house without breaking the law of Shabbat. And amazingly, you can see the Talmud here, Rav Ashi said to him, it did not enter my mind. Rav Ashi sat and suffered until this student came to him and said, but you have a solution, you have a way. Water the room that helps, which helps against the heat. If you sprinkle water all over you cool a bit the floor. And this is a very beautiful, I think, Talmudic sense that you might say, but it goes against the rules of Shabbat. No, it's about finding solutions to a problem, because Shabbat is supposed to be conjoinment, is something we talked about last time too. And you can see also the conclusion of the Talmud. It brings a Tana, a source from the Mishnah time, a wise woman. I'm sorry that the Mishnah assumed that it's a woman who sprinkled the water on the floor, but that was the time. A wise woman sprinkles water on the floor of her house on Shabbat. And now that we hold in accordance with Rabbi Shimon, it is permitted even lechatchila. This is very important, the word lechatchila. He says this is not only a solution, as soon as we follow this ruling, it's even allowed to do it without do it in only for a special reason in a special situation. Doing lechatchila, you can do it this way to water the floor in this creative way, doing it in a sprinkle around the house, cleaning yourself in every corner. So you can see that this was something that was practiced, and everyone followed this this direction. Okay. Okay, let's go to Shulchan Aruch here, who explained the principal ruling. Yes, Justin.
Sorry, I didn't understand what lechatchila was.
Yeah, you have to lechatchila and b'diavad are two, again, just like we had with the Rabbanan Doraita. Lechatchila and b'diavad are also very, very important two words. It's, I think in the Latin, it's ad habitum. Lechatchila is something that you're allowed to do with no exception. But diavad is either in a special situation or if something already happened. But diavad is like something it's a special circumstances that came. Lechatchila is also, you don't need any special circumstances. This is the right way to do it. Lechatchila, you're allowed to do it. It's not something that are allowed b'diavad. You will learn a lot about it when we come to kosher rules. But b'diavad is if something happened, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
You did something that you're not allowed to do, but now it already happened. What is this? How should you treat the someone lighted the light at the home by mistake? Are you allowed to use this light or not? B'diavad. Is it now? It already happened. Okay. The word b'diavad will be either that or b'diavad because it's a special circumstance that needs to be done. But lechatchila, it's better not to do. Lechatchila, it means it's allowed. You don't need to have excuses or special circumstances. Okay.
Clear. Okay. Clear. Thank you.
Great, but it's very important, and these words comes all the time in the halakha, lechatchila and b'diavad. So it's an important word. We'll go back to them. Good. Shulchan Aruch. Orach Chaim. You remember Shulchan Aruch? What's the time of Shulchan Aruch? Yes, Cecilia. Now you need to unmute.
I think it is in Spanish time, in 1500 something.
Yes, it's about 1500. That's the time of Shulchan Aruch. You're right that the rabbi was from Spain, but he wrote Shulchan Aruch in Israel, in Eretz Yisrael. It's 1500, right after the Spanish deporting the Jews in 1492. So yes, 1500. This is the time we need to remember for Shulchan Aruch. And all the rabbis before Shulchan Aruch are called Rishonim, the first. All the rabbis after Shulchan Aruch are called Achronim, the last. So, and it's important because the Rishonim are considered, they have a bigger. You can't just come and say they're wrong. Achronim it's more. You have a bigger practice of saying yes, but it's the only achoni. It's a. I need to be careful with this, but Rishonim have a bit bigger status, I would say. Rishonim. So Shulchan Aruch, something that one didn't intend to happen is allowed, as long as it is not a definite consequence of the specific action. It's what's called psik reisha. Okay, now this is the rule. Okay, now we'll come to the example that will explain the rule. But if you didn't intend to happen, then it's allowed as long as it is not a definitive consequence. Therefore, a person may drag a bed, chair, or bench, whether it is big or small, provided that he doesn't intend to make a route. Again, think of not on a hard floor, but a floor that is no adama.
Ground.
Yeah, that's a ground. So when you drag something on it, you will create a route. You could create something that will be seen. If your goal is to creating that, you're not allowed to do it. But if your goal is to remove the heavy bed, then it's allowed, even though this will create something that you're not allowed to create. If you want to create it, it's not allowed. But if it's a result of something that you will do, then it's a work that you didn't want, you didn't need it. Okay, and then it's allowed. You didn't do that work. What you did is moving the furniture. But if it's something that definitely will be a result of what you do, that there's no way not to avoid this reaction, then you can't then you can't do it. I won't give you the example that Rema comes with, because it's no, now that I said it, I have to bring that example. The example that Rema brings is to play with the head of a chicken to make the children laugh. So you're allowed to play with the head of a chicken, but you can't take the head of a chicken off the chicken on Shabbat to play. Yes, it's allowed to play with the head of a chicken for the children. Probably that's what kind of dolls of that time or something like that. So instead of having a baby dolls, they used head of a chicken. I know it's. I said that it sounds terrible. I'm sorry. I'm vegetarian. I don't like this. but he says, and then the Rema says, cutting it off is going to kill the chicken. You're not allowed to do it because you want to play with the child. Okay, so don't say that your intention is something else, and which will permit a work that is necessary to happen. I wondered, should I bring this example or not? But it's not me, it's the Rema, okay? So don't take it from me. Good. Now comes the question of sweeping, very relevant to what we do. It is forbidden to sweep the house unless the floor is stone. So, today our floor is definitely stone. Wood is also stone. There are those who permit this even if it is not made of stone. So even in outside, some permit it. There are some who are strict even when it is stone. Rema comes, and this is why it becomes difficult. That even if it's is stone, there are some who are done permitted. You can see here, there's a long list of Ashkenazi rabbis who both Mordechai and Rabbeinu Yerucham and Sefer Tumah and Smag. So we have different important Ashkenazi rabbis who don't permit even in stone. This is a practice, and one should not act differently. So Rama says it's not allowed to sweep the floor. But however, it is permitted to have a non-Jew do such, because it's not really not allowed. So it's not allowed, but it's not a melacha. It's not as definitive as something else. So here comes the question of goy, Shabbos goy, of a non-Jew. So you're allowed to use, at least you're allowed to use him, because the level of the isur of the level is not high of doing something that is not allowed, or to sweep using clothing or a garment or a soft bird feather. And this is a good example. Probably sweeping at his time was with things that were more hard. So when you sweep, it actually made an effect. But if it was something like soft bird feather, or I would say today many use either something that is plastic, but horse hair or things like that you use in today's brooms, then it's not a problem, because it's something very that is not strong enough. It only collects the dust, only collects what's forbidden, but because they do not fill in surfaces, they won't be a help to change the surface of the floor, then it's allowed. This is agur. It is forbidden to brush clothing off using brooms made of wood chips, because the chips will break. So it's another aspect that, again, if it's a direct result that the chips will break, using it, then it's not allowed to do it. So this is some of the principle of sweeping. So I would say if sweeping today is allowed, using the thing that we have today. Now we'll come to a different aspect. So I can see someone wrote something. Don't create pattern. I assume it was connected to the dragging on the floor, right?
Yeah, I meant if you have like the sand floor or something, you can create accidentally some kind of pattern when you
but
sweep.
if it's completely accidental, it's not a problem.
Oh, okay, all right.
When it's not what you want, as I say, if it's not what you want, if you're dragging, that's the whole principle. You're not allowed to do it, but if you drag something that does it, then it's not an issue. But it is relevant, for example, going to the beach and create. That's a different rule, but you can't just ride on Shabbat or create a picture in the sand outside on the beach. Okay. A different rule that is connected to that is the rule of schita. Schita is squeezing, and we talked about it last time. No, I want to read the thoughts from the Talmud. Let's go to the bottom line. One may not wipe with a sponge, lest one squeezes it, unless the sponge sports a handle. So now sponge here is not the same sponge that we talk about today. It's 500 years ago. But if there are things that automatically you will squeeze, then it's not allowed to use on Shabbat. Okay, you're allowed to use towels that are not used for wiping. So if you, for example, something fell, you can your cup with water fell down and the water is all over the table. You're allowed to take the water with paper towels or regular towels that you're not going to squeeze out, right? Like if it's something that is not the regular way, something that if you use a towel, then you should do it at least two people. That if you by mistake come to squeeze it, the other one will remind you that you're not allowed. Even someone says you have to have at least 10 people to squeeze to remind not to squeeze. But this is very, very important. So, and it comes to different rulings. For example, at home, what can you wash the dishes with? And here, the rule will be that you can wash the dishes with a something that you can't squeeze water out of, because this you will do automatically, right? If you use a regular sponge, it's almost automatically to do the movement of squeezing, and also when you wash, you squeeze the water when so you use something different. Now there are I would argue that the ones that are very I have no idea how to wait a second, I'll show to you what I'll stop sharing. I'll just find the example. Here, now I'll show you my so you have here different kinds of. This is what most of those you have in Denmark, probably also in other places. So this is a problem because this is a regular sponge that has the water in it. In many places have a special here. So look, Shabbat Scotch. You can see a very special here, this one. Can all see it? This one, you see which one I point?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So this is a special Shabbat Scotch. They made the sponge that it's only like a plastic and cleaned very badly. I will argue, and I know that other won't agree with me that this one is allowed too. That the one that is just like the end of our regular sponges, that this is allowed, but many disagree because say if you really squeeze it, you can take water out of it. So this is on this one there's a debate. Many will say not allowed, and you need a very special Shabbat sponge.
Brush, no, like a brush. You also use a brush or a plastic.
Brush is also fine. So using a brush will be fine. Yes. Okay, I'll go back to the sources. Now another aspect. So this is some part of the question of squeezing of this melacha of schita. Another aspect is, of course, with eating. Can you squeeze a lemon, for example, or squeeze other fruits if you want to drink? What do you say?
No.
You can't.
You can't. Though you have a special way that you are allowed. You're right. You're not allowed to squeeze, just create juice. But if you want to put lemon in the salad, what can you do, Eva?
You can squeeze it as a part of the dressing, kind of, but I remember that you cannot squeeze lemon in your cup of tea.
Yes, and what's the difference between a cup of tea and to salad?
Because first you're creating the juice and then adding it to your tea, and then with the salad, you are never intending to create the juice.
It's you're close. good direction. I like your way of thinking. It's the idea is that you can't change it. So you can't change from food to fluid. But because in the salad the lemon goes into salad, so it's ma'achal le'ma'achal, it's food to food. So it stays food. It doesn't change the type of what it is. So this is what they write here. One is permitted to squeeze a bunch of grapes into a pot that has food inside in order to enhance the food, because the liquid entering a food is like the food. But if there's no food inside it, it is forbidden. So you can't change the status. If you take food into food, then it's fine. It stays food. But if it's food into fluid, it's not allowed. So this is also a different aspect. That's not part of house works, but of the eating rules. But this is also relevant regarding schita. Okay. Wow, it's late. We already came to the end of the day, and we didn't come to Bonnet. Yes, I will.
And last question. Yes. I have in my notes written that it's a set of Sephardic rules, and then that there was another rabbi who was writing comments like with the Ashkenazi rules. So if we are reading Shulchan Aruch, do we like pick, like how do we know that it's like the like that it's?
First of all, even today we don't go directly to Shulchan Aruch. Even I bring Shulchan Aruch many times, but even Shulchan Aruch is too old for us to talk directly on the thing that we do. We have to understand that there are so many interpretations that already were made on Shulchan Aruch that changes. So usually we won't go directly to Shulchan Aruch. We will have to read also the way Shulchan Aruch was interpreted through the Achronim. As I said, I will go to Pnei Halacha or some of the other books that already studied all the rabbis who came after Shulchan Aruch. But in principle, we follow a lot of things from time of Shulchan Aruch, and we follow Rema. Rema, the Ashkenazi interpreter that wrote on. We mentioned him today. The first Shulchan Aruch said you're allowed to sweep the floor, and then the Rema said if it's stoned, and then the Rema said no, you're not. Because Ashkenazi rabbis say even if it's stoned, but then he wrote a few ways that it is allowed. So you can see here, and we are as a rule we follow Rema, the Ashkenazi rabbi. He actually comes from Krakow, Rema. So I visited his grave there in Krakow, and it's a famous synagogue. Before I came to Denmark, I was offered his to be rabbi in his shul of the Rema, but I prefer to come to Copenhagen. I hope you're happy with that. If not, then find a different community. Yes, Arad?
It's not feel sometimes that you try to cheat the rules? לתחמן את החוקים?
Yeah, this is something we talked about many times, the cheating the rules, and I would say no. I say that the rules are connected to specific situations, and for example, the watering and such. I think for me, this is the beauty of Halakha in Judaism, the idea that you can be creative if something is really there's a reason why you need to change, but we can't open that. It's a too big topic to discuss it now. We already passed the time, and we didn't finish the Melacha Boneh and the question of games on Shabbat. I will probably ask one of the rabbis to fill up on these one of the next times. Silke, last question.
It's just, I think they've discussed a lot of things for a long time, and they've sometimes found our way. But like, what about new things? Like you mentioned once that we, fake meat, this new kind of lab-grown meat, is a rabbinical discussion. How does a rabbinical discussion work? Is it like a trial? Does it ever end? Who can put in the pool?
Okay, very short. I will answer. The trial of the jungle. Like Uriah what happened right now with the meat, for example? Well, there are different places people write halachic articles. There are different halachic books or on the internet and different places. So one writes a serious work, bring all the arguments for that, and concludes one thing. Other rabbi writes a different answer, and then they will start a discussion. And some more rabbis will write the answer after reading those the first one who wrote, and they will discuss. And the one who will win will probably be the one that the most follow. Not necessarily the best arguments, but the most followers. A good example is TV on Shabbat. 50 years ago, most of the religious people in diaspora saw TV on Shabbat. It wasn't an issue. They put it on a Shabbos clock or just let it stay on. And today, everyone will say it's not allowed. Not because of the halachic reasoning, but because this is what won. This is what this direction of this is not allowed on Shabbat won. How? That's a question of sociology, not of halakha. Yeah, that will give you an answer. But usually it will be different rabbis answering, and some of them will be leaning. One of the examples I want to bring today was a question of playing games, playing on Shabbat. It's allowed or not. And you can see here some say very easily, of course it's allowed, and some say no way it's allowed on playing basketball on Shabbat or playing football. Some say clearly not allowed. Some say no, there's no issue at all. And you wonder how come? Like, what's the big difference? And it's more a difference of first of all, the societies they live in. Who did they answer to when they wrote that answer? What the way they grew up, many times more than the question of which melachot are allowed or not regarding doing the different actions. But all of that you will have to continue here in the future. So thank you for today. Chanukah Sameach, everyone. Remember the one important rule of Shabbat, of Chanukah, that lighting the candle is first of all from home. So if you go out, if you have some lighting it first of all, ner ishu veito, from your home and in the window for the people to see. This is the main, the most important part. So if you go to parties and all of that, the reason I say is, but this is because this is the most common mistake people do, that they think, we already lit the candles because we were out to a party. Even if you go to friends, you're supposed to light Hanukkah candles at home. So do that when you come back, and try not to come back too late, because the rules are in the time that people are still outside, walking outside. So let's spread the light and have a great Hanukkah, all of you. We'll see you in the next calendar year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
תודה רבה, משוער, שבוע טוב.
חנוכה שמח.